Hi, my name is Benjamin Felix. I am the CMO at Stackline. If you haven't heard of Stackline, that's because I just started as CMO. So no, we are basically the biggest best kept secret in e-commerce, not by choice. We basically know every single thing that happens on Amazon, Walmart, or Target. We know down to the SKU how big these categories are, how much sales are. I can tell you what the inventory is down the street at the grocery store. I can tell you what the price is.
Scary, just kidding.
Yeah, well, there's no such thing as privacy. So I'm joined here by Leslie, Unilever marketing veteran.
Thanks.
Can you talk about your role real quick?
Sure.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us. It's 4 o'clock. We have to keep this fun, so hopefully you guys are going to participate when we throw questions back at you. But yes, I'm Leslie. I've been at Unilever for almost 16 years, and I have sort of self-called myself the queen of ice cream. Someone else said it. I spent 12-ish years running brands like Klondike Bars, Breyers, Magnum, Talenti, Good Humor, Popsicle, Ben & Jerry's, and right now I'm also working on the Hellmann's business, and that's why we're here for Super Bowl. We have a spot running on Sunday. But my job's crazy because I get to do digital transformation, and we all know transformation is kind of a buzzword that maybe doesn't mean anything, but means a lot at the same time. So I get to do everything from earned media, paid media, 1P data strategy, digital ecosystem, 7OA, e-com, decom, UCom, privacy.
WeCom. Yeah.
WeCom. But we have to start by telling our football stories, right? Please.
I mean, mine is just terribly sad. I grew up in Houston, was a huge Oilers fan. Shout out Houston Oilers. And now I married a woman from South Jersey, which means I also live in South Jersey, and I'm now also an Eagles fan. So, yeah.
Pretty good story. I have to always tell a Packers story, and I actually think it makes sense because we live in this crazy world of marketing where authenticity is a buzzword, and I am very authentically a Packer fan. But there was a moment in time when I was in the late 80s, a child of the 80s, and I was obsessed with Joe Montana. So if anyone knows Joe Montana, this is my plea for help. I'd really like to meet him this weekend because I was that kid that didn't have a team because the Packers sucked in the 80s, and my dad was a hater. But then Brett Favre showed up, and we had a very crazy 30 years-ish with Rodgers and Favre, and I go to about 7 games a year, have a tattoo, didn't name my child after any Packers, but love the Packers and excited to be here, but very, very bitter that the Packers did not make the playoffs the year my brand runs a Super Bowl ad. It's okay.
I'm so sorry.
Now we got that out of the way, but we had to start with football because we're here for football.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I feel like fireside chats, I think we can make them fun, right? So let's take away from like the idea of the serve and return kind of idea. I'm actually going to do some speed round. I'm going to throw some topics to you, and we're going to start with hyper flop, right? And so and we're gonna have fun with this. All right, so I'm going to throw out a topic. You're going to tell me hyper flop or who knows. So number 1, the metaverse.
We should poll the audience.
Yeah, what does the audience think?
I mean, the metaverse, in my world of marketing, where I've got products like Breyers and Hellmann's that reach a mass consumer around this country, the metaverse could be cool to them in 10 to 15 years when it's maybe affordable and not a $9,000 goggle for them to wear while they're cooking and trying to keep their children from killing themselves. So metaverse for me is a bit of a fad right now. I think it will definitely be something to somebody, but for me and my brands right now, I've got bigger things to worry about, like making sure mayonnaise is in every household in America. It is, for the record.
That's great. Let's talk about sustainability. So really quickly, we're marketers here. I want to preface this. The reason why we chose this format.
And some NFL players, I heard.
Yeah, right. Tight. So our job is almost to embrace what's the new cool thing, right? We're always chasing what's that sexy new thing. And it's almost important. It's part and parcel of the role to be ahead of the game, being, super reactive or maybe even sometimes proactive. But we also have to figure out how do you balance between what's real and what's not? And hence we kind of landed on this. I got so excited to jump into the bit that I was just whatever. I wanted to hear your thoughts on the metaverse. But let's talk about another one, which is actually uber critical. It's part and parcel of this, DEI, ESG, what have you, sustainability.
Hot topic. I mean, sustainability is a table stake. If you're a brand, if you're a business, you have to have a position, and you should, because as businesses, we have a very significant role, which is to use our abilities, our supply chains, our mass reach to make the world better. And that is part of Unilever's mission, part of my personal mission. So to me, it's table stakes, and the brands I've worked on, everyone has a different position. For example, I worked on a brand called Talenti. We worked very hard to make our jars 100% recyclable. That was a very significant on-cost to do that, because it changes the supply chain, it changes the sourcing, and when you're looking and owning a P&L as a business owner and a marketer, and you know you need to do the right thing, but you're staring at numbers that say it's going to cost you $5 million a year to do it, it's really hard. But we did it, and we found ways to create value in other parts of our supply chain. We looked at sourcing for other things, and so I tell you that story because it's an imperative part of a brand's mission. And again, every brand will have their own way to do it. That was part of Talenti's way to do it, but it's the only way to be. I mean, this is a non-negotiable for me. This is not a fad. This is the way to be a business in 2023 and ongoing.
Awesome. Hear, hear, by the way. And I mean, I think that's one of those things where you have to obviously have that dialogue with finance, with, everybody, all the leaders up the chain. But ultimately, I do think nobody's like, you know what? I don't think we should be sustainable. I think it's more like, hey, this is how we can make it work. So let's talk about another one, Gen Z. Is it a hype?
Any Gen Zs in the audience, right?
Yeah, I see one, too. Right.
Excellent. I love the topic of cohorts because as, again, a company that reaches bajillions of people that are all ages and all lifestyles, from families to singles to grandparents raising children to, young Gen Zs that are trying to figure out what this crazy world we live in is about. Every brand has a stake in those different consumers, and I believe that every consumer group is relevant for different reasons. And I actually get annoyed when we lean into a cohort obsessively, because the reality is a lot of the consumer brands that I've worked on and a lot of us work on reach a 35 plus audience. I mean, my Klondike bars were hot in the 80s, and those parents of the 80s are now grandparents and great grandparents. They have 3 times the buy rate of my millennials that for the love of God won't pick up a Klondike bar. They're eating my Magnum bars, which is another great story about diversifying your ice cream portfolio. But cohorts matter for different reasons at different times, but it's really important actually to talk about the boomers, the Gen Xers that have brands that they love, and they shouldn't be forgotten. They're a very critical media target. And by the way, a lot of those are morphing into TikTok these days. So it's fascinating to watch the different cohorts start to play. So I sort of answered that question. Yes, important, but everyone has a different importance in terms of your brand strategy.
But are you tweaking your marketing messaging to the boomers, to the grandmas that are buying the Klondike bar, right?
Some ways we are. I mean, we can talk about audience segmentation and the data we do have that allows us to send the right message to the right person at the right time. To me, what we do is much more about the moment. It's less about your age and where you live. And maybe where you live if you're in Phoenix in July and it's 190 degrees, because I would definitely want to serve you a popsicle message on that day.
Yeah.
Weather triggers are hot for us in ice cream, but I want to send you a message because it's relevant to your life. I don't really care how old you are. I do, again, on big marketing initiatives, but I want to make sure you feel like the message is for you and it's the product for you. So yes, we are to a degree.
So let's take that down let's pull that thread. So how you reach those cohorts varies, obviously. You want to be personalized. You want to make sure that you're hitting them at the right time, at the right moment, right? Consumers have never been more picky, never been less loyal, never been basically, more apt to switch to or churn to someone else. Let's talk about influencer marketing, because that one is part and parcel of why we're kind of here. Sports marketing in and of itself is huge. Influencer marketing, is it a hype or fad?
I think it is everything. I think we are in a world where it doesn't matter if you like it or not, and you want to be interested. As a business, a marketer today, you have to pay attention to what influencer marketing, and it's frankly content creator marketing. And I think the evolution for me is, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we were really thinking about it as a very simplistic, a person posting, sharing to their fans. Now these fans are creating content that's better than some of the agencies I've worked with for 15 years, because better is relative. The content is more personal and it feels more real because that creator is reaching their audience in a way with my brand that, I'm sorry, but we as a brand owner team have maybe never been able to do at that intimate level. And I still stand by, we have an amazing commercial running on Sunday, and I'm gonna keep plugging that. That film was made with one of the best agencies in the world and is brilliant, and it serves a purpose. It is a match reach moment. But this influencer content, it reaches different moments, and in those kind of, I think to myself, when I have had a long day and I'm scrolling, of course I'm probably watching football, Packers reruns, and those moments when that influencer creator is reaching me and reminding me of like why exactly that Ziploc bag is gonna make my day tomorrow easier, I'm like, oh my God, it is. I'm a very big Ziploc user. So relevance for sure comes from influencers, but you can't ignore it, and it is what we do today, and we have to pay attention.
So are influencers reaching the boomers? Are they reaching the, those cohorts right now?
I think they're reaching boomers less than they're reaching probably, X, millennials,
Gen
and Gen
Alpha,
Z.
yeah.
But that's why I always say influencers are a part of a marketing program. They are not the only thing you do. And maybe if you have a new and up and coming brand that was built in the last couple of years, you may only be doing influencer work and it might work brilliantly. But my brands are household staples. I have a full funnel campaign that has mass reach video because mass reach still works for brands like Hellmann's and Klondike because we have that loyalty and that trust that's been built for over 100 years. So you can play the piano spectrum of influencer works, but for me, it's always going to be part of a bigger messaging story.
No, I like that. It's a nice allegory. All right, so let's shift gears away from the hype because there's a bunch of topics, but we don't need to, not too many hot takes. Let's talk about versus. So in this one, I'm going to give you two topics, right? The number one that we were talking about is purpose versus cause. The idea of purpose marketing versus cause marketing. What is the difference in your mind?
Another hot topic. You said no hot. That's another fad or bust or boom or similar to what I shared about sustainability. I think purpose is very, very hot right now, and as Unilever has taught me for the last 15 years, and our old CEO was kind of the founder of the sustainable mission plan that we live as employees, it's there. And I come back to after going through, I worked on Dove for the last year and a half, and Dove is the epitome of purpose, and it's a 17-year journey that comes with investment, commitment, choices, brand see, brand do. I worked on Dove for, about 15 months. Every single influencer that we worked with was vetted at a level that I can tell you required 2 full-time employees because we had to make sure that that person never had plastic surgery, never had anything done, had a track record that was very pro-positive beauty. So again, that example to me is purpose at its epitome. The really cool news is that I think a lot of brands are figuring out purpose because it has to be authentic, a hard brief. Let's be clear, a brand like Klondike that has been around for 100 years and makes people happy, it's hard to figure out what Klondike's purpose is besides joy.
Being delicious.
Purely deliciousness, chocolatey goodness. But I want to talk about Hellmann's because Hellmann's went on this incredible journey to figure out its purpose, which was about food waste. And it came through the authentic connection with families and consumers and talking to them about what's one thing that you really worry about. And this food waste theme kept coming up, and it became this very fundamental part of Hellmann's through a very authentic way. So to answer your question, purpose versus cause, purpose trumps cause. Purpose is a bigger, always-on, authentic mission that a brand or a business is doing. Cause can be under that. I started my career at the American Cancer Society because cause for fighting cancer is very real. But I think cause comes under purpose because purpose is a DNA that can hold a brand together or contribute to elevating a brand.
Absolutely. It can give you direction. It can be, something that lifts, an overall brand itself. I want to ask you a little bit about the Hellmann's ad. How long is the spot?
30 seconds. 2-minute warning, second quarter. Working with the media team.
No, we get it. What's your expected lift? How do you, are you looking at this right now? Have you forecasted? Have you?
I'm not here to forecast right now. I'm here to have a good time. No, the Hellmann's spot for us, and I talked a little bit about Hellmann's purpose. We picked Super Bowl 3 years ago because we wanted a very, very big stage. We wanted to take the biggest media marketing moment of the year because we believe in the purpose of Hellmann's. Hellmann's is a great mayonnaise. We're the #1 mayonnaise in the country, but it's more than that. And we needed the stage to do that. And purpose, as I said, is always on. We didn't just show up 2 years ago and say, hey, we're going to talk about food waste later. 3 years later, we are doing work in Washington. We are connecting with consumers. We are working with farmers around how do we make less waste with farm crops. We are talking to people all over the country about how we can help you. We're creating recipe strategies that take Hellmann's and give you the average 5 leftovers in your freezer and what you can make with them. 1 in 3 households has Hellmann's, and 40% of food waste is in your home. So that's a lot of people and a lot of waste. So if we can fix that, 1 household once a year by making a great recipe with Hellmann's, we are making a huge dent in the world. And then asterisk, we're heading into an economy where people need more affordable food, and every time you watch that lettuce rot or you see that old container of rotisserie chicken go out the door, you just wasted $2.50 and the $3, and we all are seeing the price of food go up. So it's not only about your home and saving money, but it's really about how you can then save for a bigger mission.
I'm reminded of that tweet that basically says, I wish I was the person I was when I went out and bought all those vegetables.
We all want to believe we're going to cook with them, and we cook with some of them.
Yeah, but we need to figure it out. That's cool, and there's a better way. Let's talk about national advertising versus local advertising. What's your take?
You got to do both, depending on who your consumer is and what your brand is. Hellmann's, Breyers, we have national reach. We're in 1 in 3 households. Breyers is 98% awareness. So I can do a national film. I can run it on, and I can run it on video. I can run it on linear television because it works. But I also want to make sure that my Breyers heartland is the East Coast. Breyers was founded in Pennsylvania. We over-index with our friends at the Giant Foods. So we always do a lot of local radio. We do a lot of work with Giant Foods. We reach certain markets because we know that those users are buying, again, 3-4 times some of their cohorts on the West Coast. So it's a balance. I mean, the sad answer, and I wish I could be more controversial, but most marketing is balanced because you have to reach the big consumers that you can say, hey, Breyers is great, buy it again. And then there's those people that want to be reminded, hey, Breyers has a new chocolate strawberry flavor, and we saw that you picked up a lot of Dove chocolate, so we think you might like the chocolate Breyers, and we can reach them on that level too.
So let's go down that balance path, right? TikTok versus Instagram, same idea? Or
no, I think it is. I think you have to know who your audience is and what's appropriate for them. And I do think we are in a world where those trends on penetration of TikTok, Meta, Snapchat, Pinterest is actually a huge one for us. They're moving very fast, and now I'm seeing older cohorts come into TikTok, and that might mean a different TikTok strategy.
Wait. So you're telling me people Pinterest ice cream? Like what?
Oh yeah, it's one of our best channels. Pinterest. So think of and we obviously reach more than women, but our core consumer for our Breyers is going to be a mom in her 30s with kids, and she's always planning birthday parties. And we love to be the birthday party ice cream for a mom with kids, with our classic Breyers vanilla, 5 ingredients, still delicious after 100 years. I work in marketing. It's great. Pinterest is that moment. I mean, and now I have a 2-year-old, so I'm Pinteresting more than I ever thought. I went from fantasy football news to now I have a Pinterest
board full of, that's great.
But Breyers is there. We've done great with Talenti on Pinterest, and then recipes. So Hellmann's recipes is the heart of our strategy with food waste. Pinterest is recipes.
So make sure you guys watch that video. I think we should bring it back to the audience.
I have to talk about the spot first, quick.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Oh, my God.
The spot you didn't get to see. Pete Davidson walks into a bar. No. Basically, we took the idea that food waste is best with Hellmann's, as I said. Well, how do you talk about that? How do you show that? So we actually found Mr. John Ham, Brie Larson, Brie, and then Pete Davidson shows up and goes, Brie, John, why are you here? And they're like, why is Pete Davidson here? He's everywhere. And so we show literal funny jokes around their names being Brie and Ham, and then we show how you can make a delicious panini with Brie and Ham and the wonders of Hellmann's. So watch for it on Sunday. You'll be like, I got a sneak peek, and I pictured what it would look like. There is a giant life-size jar of Hellmann's. And I am from Wisconsin and heard that the jar is traveling to my home state, to the Mars Cheese Castle, and I was like, did they know I live there? Because I would like to see the large Hellmann's jar in my favorite cheese store in the world.
I'd like that. I'd love that.
And if Charles Woodson could show up, and then the Packers could win the Super Bowl, then my life is made.
With like a tuna salad sandwich, like Hellmann's.
Some ice cream blowing out of the top of a cake, it would be great.
Nice. All right, do we want to open it up for questions? All right. Who's got a question? I love when the guys from the back have to run and sprint with the thing. There we go. You can.
So you mentioned influencer marketing is a very important piece of your guys' marketing mix. We saw influencer marketing kind of rapidly grow in the last 10, 15 years. Before that, it was pretty much strictly athletes, with the early ones like Michael Jordan and Haynes. And then the ecosystem around athletes had not really evolved. So the demands from so many new brands to connect with somebody that had a great following went to people that were a lot easier to get in touch with. Mm-hmm. Now with the opening of college NIL, you're having influencers of all scales, from micro to large. Are you guys looking at, since we're at the Super Bowl, channeling more dollars towards people like athletes that have accumulated a following because of maybe where they're from, their endemic community, what they believe in? Because I think a lot of people question your generic influencer, what's their purpose? Yep. And sometimes it looks like brands are chasing numbers and eyeballs versus what's the story behind the individual. So just curious if that's something you guys are looking at.
Great question. And funny enough, one of my good partners in the industry, Rob Master, is a huge leader in the NIL space. So it's a really important one for Unilever, and just how we are introducing, this pretty hot topic to younger people that maybe need the support of what does it mean to be an influencer when you're 18 years old and get paid for it. But that's a sidebar. So I think when we think of influencers and do we go to college or do we go to sports, the answer is actually much higher. It's every brief for an influencer program starts with, what are we trying to do? And it would never start with, we want a sports athlete, or we would want a fitness athlete, or we would want a home chef. It starts with, are we trying to reach people about recipes? Are we trying to reach people about family birthday parties? And so the brief starts in an occasion and a moment, and then we work with our agency partners to really filter on that moment and that occasion much more than we are on the person. The person comes in more on value alignment, what's their profile, what kind of history have they had with other brands. And you might imagine on a brand like Dove, very, very careful, because we wanted to ensure the authenticity of Dove is never challenged by an influencer we work with. On a brand like Hellmann's, we're just getting into influencers, to be honest. And for Super Bowl, we're doing a lot with chefs and cooking. And if you think about TikTok these days, anyone can be a chef. Anyone can be a grill master. And so we do end up seeing athletes that are dabbling in cooking and dabbling in being dads and telling their dad stories. So I'm finding today that we're seeing just like almost a melting pot of, when you look at an influencer profile, the genericism is kind of fading, and it's getting into, they need to stay relevant, build, I'm good at cooking, I'm good at talking about kids, I'm good at birthday parties. And so I can see that when we start to source influencers, and that's how it starts for me. What am I trying to do? Is it an occasion? Is it an event? And then we find people that match that brief. I will say everyone today these big influencers are now celebrities too, and I think that's become, as someone that my old partner from Mindshare was here today, Josh, and we remember in 2010 on Axe, doing a deal with, at the time, I'm thinking back to, it was a famous Laker at the time, and I should know this as a sports fan, but you guys are making me nervous. So it was like the big athlete deal, as to your point of, this was the deal of the year, and now everyone has that kind of profile, and we're paying influencers at celebrity-esque rates for some of these big programs.
More questions? I saw some hands earlier. You don't have to be shy. Well, oh, there we go.
Hi. So outside of the Super Bowl, which is obviously a big moment and a big investment for you, do any of your brands, what's the connection with any of your brands and sport? Mm-hmm. Or is there?
Similar to the answer before, occasions for me. So if you are going to have a tailgate party for college football, I want to be there with Hellmann's because I want to give you recipes. And this is something we're honestly just working through now, of kind of that cross-section of occasions, recipes, and sports, because we know that, I don't ever want to disrupt a consumer's journey. I want to give her something or him something that just makes stuff he's doing better. Like, you're already going to a tailgate, you're already cooking. Great, you're in the mindset. Here's Hellmann's to make a dip for you. That's the kind of marketing we want to do, and I think that naturally does meet up with sports, and you will see more from Hellmann's this year with different sports moments, different tailgate moments, and then different big parties like Super Bowl, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, because for us, and ice cream is hot. The holidays are the biggest moments for us. We are always part of those joyous occasions, the memories. And if I asked you all right now to think of Thanksgiving, you're going to think of a food, you're going to think of what you felt when you ate it. And Breyers is a big part of that. So sports definitely will be doing more of, and ice cream is more about occasions and holidays where we can just bring those family moments and make them even happier. And couch moments are great too, by the way, for Ben & Jerry's, Talenti, Magnum, which is every night for me.
Any more questions? Oh, wait. Yep.
Hi.
Hi.
I love your energy, first of all, but and I love ice cream.
Thank you.
Hellmann's. And my mother-in-law still buys Klondike bars, and I can tell you that the grandparents are
Yes.
making the kids love Klondike bars. So I think
They do the marketing for us.
Yeah.
It's trade secret.
Strong. Influencers.
But I'm just curious, because you talked about all the kind of like, you brought up all buzzwords and all the trends and also sort of like the importance of moments and occasions. What's something that is kind of new and trending that you're, looking at really seriously and carefully because you think it is the next, like, not a trend, but actually here to stay and change kind of the way you invest maybe going
Yeah.
forward?
It's kind of a scary question because I didn't get to prepare for it, but I think it's a kind of a boring question because it's really in the space of data. And I think where similar to influencers, which are hot and we know they're here to stay, but they will evolve. I think data for us is something where, as you started and what Stackline does, there's more data than ever. And it is something I'm hearing about and I'm talking about, and I know it'll help me know my consumer better. But it's also terrifying, but terrifying in a way that it can only help me grow my business, grow my consumers. But there's hundreds and hundreds of solutions out there. I'm not trying to pitch your business, but I guess I am.
Thank you, by the way, influencer marketing. No, if I'm going to just echo that sentiment, I think the reality is that data-driven marketing has been something for a lot of people. I do think it's evolving. I think e-commerce is changing, meaning how people buy. It's shifting. I don't know if you guys have been watching like how retail media is like shot up, which is what we do. We spend about $500 million on Amazon every year on just advertising alone. But the reality though is there's going to be more data available directly aligned to what you buy, what you buy, what else you buy with that. So meaning we can find out if you buy Haagen-Dazs or if you buy Breyers with your toilet paper and X, Y, or Z, right? So looking at all these different types of segmentations, I really do think like the next level is going to be really talking about not like one to like a few, but like true one-to-one type of communication. It is super scary because how you play with the data. If you're working in Europe, like what's the, what their rules and regulations are fantastically difficult. Same with California with new CCPA. So a lot of this stuff is going to be a minefield for people who don't know what they're doing. But I think the ones that do embrace it quickly are going to find themselves way ahead of the game.
I have one other quick answer to that.
Yeah.
I think the other space that's hot for me is always what's happening with partnerships. And I feel like we're in a cool space in marketing where brands we never expected to work together are. And for example, one of our kind of competitors is this brand called Van Leeuwen, and they did a partnership with Kraft Mac and Cheese. And I saw it and I was jealous. I was like, that's brilliant, because it's a moment to take a risk and to try it. It's not something you're ever going to buy to keep in your freezer for a normal occasion, but it creates intrigue. It shows relevance. And it's that thing you're going to maybe pick up for like a wine night with your girlfriends just to try, and you're going to hate it, and 1 out of 8's going to love it, and you're going to be like, that person's weird. But there is something about partnerships that I do think is of relevance in a special way.
No, I mean, collaborations, right? Balenciaga and Crocs, right? Truff and Kraft actually just did something. Both clients, but like there's like you didn't have to, but there's a lot of that, right? Like non-endemic partnerships, I think, is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Any other questions, or are we at time? All right, one more question. No more questions. All right, we're getting off.
Wait, no.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
I love this question. So my ice cream profile is I'm a variety seeker. And I worked on innovation for ice cream for many of my years of my career, and I got to taste flavors all day. I started running half marathons because there was more sugar pulsing through my veins than was probably legal. So in that year, we were launching a brand, part of Talenti called Talenti Layers. And Talenti Layers is a 5-layer jar. And we make this layer called chocolate pretzel. And I'm obsessed. When you take pretzels and you put it with caramel, and then you take our beautiful gelato that, for the record, when Talenti is made, we have a huge, huge piece of machinery in our Sikeston, Missouri facility that steeps the products. So when we bought Talenti, that was the magic. Talenti is steeped. So when you see the mint, when you see the vanilla, we are making those flavors in-house. Think of taking that to mass production. Another terrifying thought. You really want to mass produce a vat of vanilla and make it into gelato? Well, we did, because we said the magic of Talenti is the authenticity of how that vanilla tastes, how that pistachio tastes, how the mint tastes. So we did that, but then you have to take it into a layer and you're adding stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, are we really going to get the stuff to go with the great flavors? And we did. So chocolate pretzel is my personal favorite. Double raspberry magnum is also delicious. Chunky Monkey Ben & Jerry's.
Chunky Monkey.
And you can't, Klondike was my original brand, and I was just telling, wherever you are out there, Matt, I was telling Matt that Heath Klondike bars, #2 seller in the Klondike franchise, fantastic. And I welcome anyone to tell me their favorite ice cream after this.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.